give myself long for this one. Can I get a full tummy tuck after a mini tummy tuck? In fact, you can. You can. So a what? Yeah. A mini, generally there is an exception to that. But so to explain, a mini tummy tuck is where essentially a melon slice of skin, a crescent of skin, or an ellipse of skin is taken out from the lower part of the tummy around the area that you might have had a cesarean section, say, that kind of low bikini scar, and skin's pulled down and the belly button's pulled down with it, and it tightens the lower abdominal skin. There's nothing for the upper abdominal skin. It can be combined with a Mons lift, it can be combined with a muscle repair, it can. And you generally, you haven't burnt any bridges with that. If that's not enough for you, then you can just go ahead and do the same full abdominoplasty that you might otherwise have had. No bridges burnt. In fact, it makes the full abdominoplasty very slightly easier because someone's done the first, 10th of it for you, or 5th of it for you. The exception is where, if the mini abdominoplasty has been combined with a technique called a floating umbilicus, a floating belly button technique, right? Bear with me. So with your mini tummy tuck, where you take that bit of skin, you pull down, and the thing that stops you being able to pull down is the fact that this belly button stalk is attached to a bit of skin. So as you pull down, the belly button, I'm being pulled down as tight as I can. And if you want to pull down any further, and the upper abdominal skin is just as loose as it was, this is really tight, this is kind of still loose, because the belly button, the force is being transmitted through lower abdominal skin, belly button, and no tightness above here. But some surgeons will actually say, aha, I'm going to float the umbilicus, which means I'm going to cut the belly button stalk. Not cutting around at the top as you do for a full tummy tuck, but actually cutting it at the base, at the stalk. And now you can pull a mini abdominoplasty much further than you can, and then they just re-stitch the belly button back down in the new place. Disadvantage, I don't really like that technique myself, because two disadvantages. First of all, the belly button looks really weird if it's too low, and the extent to which it can be pulled downwards is about the maximum usually. Some people do have a weirdly high, not weirdly high, sorry. Some people do have unusually high belly button, and they can get away with having it lowered more than others, in which case you could do a floating umbilicus and get away with it in those people, but they are the exception rather than the rule. Now the problem is, if you've had a mini abdominoplasty with a floating umbilicus, right, and then you want to do your normal full abdominoplasty, you're a bit scuppered with the belly button, because with a full abdominoplasty, if this is a belly button stalk, you normally cut it out, cut the bit of skin out from around it, pull the skin downwards, make a new hole and stitch it on. But if you've had a mini abdominoplasty in which you've had a floating umbilicus, you've already cut the stalk there and stitched it back on. So it's got to cut there. The body remembers, even if it's been stitched back on, there's no blood supply getting through that way. So if you cut it there, and now the second surgeon comes along, or even first surgeon, and cuts it there, then this stalk is just going to die because it's not having blood supply getting to it from either direction. I mean, if you haven't had surgery, you've got blood getting in from both directions. If you've had a full abdominoplasty, you've still got blood getting in from the base, that direction. And if you've had a mini abdominoplasty with a floating umbilicus, you've still got blood getting to it from superficially, from the skin. But if you've had a floating umbilicus, yes, cut there, and if you then have a full, cut there, then there's no blood getting to it and it will die. That's what happens to things when they've got no blood supply getting to them. So that's where you're scuppered. And if you need a full abdominoplasty after a mini abdominoplasty and you've had a floating umbilicus, then the surgeon needs to be aware that you've had a floating umbilicus, plan it, and they will probably suggest, I would suggest, you just go ahead, throw away that belly button, and you have an umbilical reconstruction done as part of your full abdominoplasty. But it just needs to be discussed and planned and not be a nasty surprise during surgery. So there you go.
Again.
That was less of a short answer than I thought it might be on the face of it.
That was
a tour de force.